welcome everybody. My name is St. Godric. Today I am joined by Sir Raven the Swift, and we are going to be breaking down all of the changes that came through with the Gathering of the Crowns in the game of Amtgard. Sir Raven, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty great. I am so excited for these class changes. You and I talked about this before the stream, and I've been talking with other battle masters and paragons about this type of stuff, and I'm super excited for all the stuff in it. Makes me kind of sad that V9 might be coming out in 2 years.
Well, I want to play with the new stuff first.
Yeah, I want to play with the new stuff for a while, yeah.
Awesome. Well, what we're going to be doing today, we've got the Inner Kingdom Circle of Monarchs changes condensed by Heron. Thank you very much, Heron. This is a huge benefit to the game. Thank you for spending the time to do this. Makes it very easily digestible and shareable in parks. But what we're going to do, we're going to go through and look at each of the changes that are here, and we're going to be giving them different star ratings based on how we feel about these changes. So first star, if it is a 1 star, that is a bad change. This is one that we don't want, we aren't looking forward to, overall think that it is going to be a negative impact on the game. A 2 star is an okay change. But for different reasons, and we'll get into, we don't think it's impactful, or we don't think the buff or the nerf is strong enough, or it's an okay starting point, but not quite where we would want it to end up. And then we've got 3 star. These are great changes. These are the ones that we are looking forward to the most, that are going to be home runs, should be great out the gate. Good changes. But before we jump into that, let me plug, if you are liking this content or you think you're going to like it, hit that subscribe and like button. It does mean a lot and helps the channel out a ton. So with that out of the way, let's scroll down and get started here. So first up, Paladins can wear gold sashes. Anti-Paladins wear silver sashes. Knights can still wear phoenixes of the appropriate color, but they must wear 2 of them on the opposite sides of their bodies, and they must be at least 5 inches across. Have any opinions on this one out the gate?
No, I think it's fine. I feel like this is the compromise rule you have to make, because there's knights who are already playing these classes, so now they can keep their garb and still do whatever. I don't think this is that big of a deal. Makes sense to me, I guess. I don't really have any positive or negative feelings about it.
See, I'm torn, because I think the sash part of it is going to help the game out in the long run, just because the symbols and stuff, it is different than what most people are used to. So I think sashes are going to be better. On the other hand, I am not happy that it's 2 phoenixes now instead of 1, and they have to be on opposite sides of the body. Because none of my Pally garb is good now. I either have to get a belt favor specifically made or alter garb, which in the grand scheme of things isn't a huge deal. It's just kind of an annoyance, right? A nuisance. I've got an event this weekend, and I'm like, now I got to go see. Do I need to make sure that I'm, it's just kind of like.
Well, I guess it does do 2 things possibly. One, I think it makes people, or at least knights playing those classes, wear historical tabards. But like they could wear a normal tabard, but like this incentivizes wearing actual tabards, which look phenomenal. Yeah. Also, I mean, you could, if they want to put another phoenix on their garb, they can only use puffy paint, or not puffy paint, fabric paint, or whatever they want to use. I would not use puffy paint because it looks horrible, but fabric paint looks great. That is an option for them. It is kind of a pain in the butt, but.
Well, and you can do too something else. I was talking with Sir Declan about this, because he's making me some Pally garb, and it's a tabard, specifically sleeveless, kind of like what I've got on, to be worn specifically over armor, because I like that look, and it's got the bird on the front and the back. But one of the things that he said, I wanted sleeveless for this particular one. He said if you go sleeved, you can just put them on either arm, and that counts too, which isn't too big of a deal either.
Yeah, that's not terrible. It just makes it kind of harder to see your armor.
And so I think that it is overall a good change. In 18 months, once everybody figures out and gets over the garb, I got to update my garb, and all of the knights understand what's going on with these changes, I think that everyone else wearing sashes will be better for the game overall.
Yeah.
Cool. Reeves wear striped garb, or have Reeves sticks, or have black and white striped or checkered board sashes. What do you think on this one?
I love this one. My combat computer, when I'm playing battle games anyway, is a look for people who don't have sashes on to not hit them, more than it was that guy has a gold sash. because the gold sash could sometimes look like a wizard sash or whatever. Making them wear striped garb is pretty cool, or a referee shirt basically. I think it's a really good change. I like that it says they can use reeve sticks, which is we were already doing that. So
I love the reeve sticks from different games and seeing some of the SCA does this, and I like that is a more clear visible sign to me than a sometimes gold looking, most of the time wizard looking sash on a reeve.
Yeah.
If they have the stick that's wrapped or whatever, I know that's the reeve. And I also like because the reeves can use them for like boundaries, right? They can go, hey, it's easier to keep people in the field, and you can pop people with them and be like, hey, like it's an attention getter. It is just an overall like good tool that reeves can have.
Yeah, totally agree.
Pretty straightforward. I wonder also if we'll see more like actual referee, like just go to Dick's Sporting Goods and buy referee throwovers. Get 2 or 3 of those for your park and just throw like
this. They certainly could. I would kind of hate to see it because it's not like LARP clothes, but it's not the worst thing they could do.
I feel like if you're going to invest and pay somebody to make striped like reeve garb specifically, that's a huge step towards like actually caring about walker in the middle and stuff. Because that's a huge stripe garb is time consuming. Oh yeah,
I could imagine so. I guess you could always cheese it and just have a stencil with a line thing on it, just spray paint a whole tunic.
Or just do like checkered, just like 4 panels and call that checkered.
Yeah. That's actually kind of weird though, because some people wear checkered or paneled garb.
Yep. I love paneled garb. That's what I have on right now. I think it looks cool, and it is semi-historical too. So, all right. Synthetic armor can get a +1 bonus for a gambeson beneath it. How do you feel?
So I don't understand this rule because synthetic can only ever get 2 points. So I don't know who's wearing 1 point synthetic armor who would also then wear a gambeson. Or what would something that would constitute as gambeson. Chainmail can also do it. It's just an odd rule. I don't know why we need it. So
I think it's to get. So this is a way. I think foam armor would never have gotten 2 points, and so now you can throw foam armor over a gambeson and then max out, assassin or some of the other 2-point classes.
Okay.
Maybe. I'm like you. I don't see it being a huge deal. I don't think that it's a massive benefit or negative. It just kind of is, and like one kid out at Keep will utilize it.
And like for rules changes, I'm always like who does this actually affect type of person? Like I can't think of anyone this actually affects. So I'm like, I guess whatever. Yeah.
I don't know anyone that actively fights in synthetic armor.
Me either.
The only thing that I would consider, and I've thought about this, a lot of the SCA fighters fight with plastic lamb horn. And this would make it to where plastic lamb could get 2 points, and that looks good. What my concern with all synthetic armor is the kids who just come out, I've got blue foam and I put 1 layer of plastic dip on it, and then it breaks in 2 weeks and looks bad and all of that stuff.
Yeah, that's usually my objection to most synthetic armor, where I'm like, some people are like, but you could wear cosplay armor. I'm like, no one is coming in wearing cosplay armor. They wear pickle barrel armor. It looks terrible and it hurts because it can cut you because they're dumb and they didn't bevel the edge. It's happened to me before. I rubbed up against somebody who's wearing a pickle barrel lamb, but they didn't bevel the edge, and I cut my forearm on him. I'm like, what the heck? And that was my first experience with synthetic armor, so I probably have a bias here. I won't lie, but
the biggest thing for me too is I think the cosplay armor could look awesome, but the problem is I don't want to hit your beautiful cosplay armor with my pole, but I'm going to, and when it breaks, you can't get mad.
I think Warblow would break pretty easily if they got hit with anything that's not a speed pole.
Well, I'm thinking like just the EVA foam that people then plasti dip and paint. Like that's going to break in 2 hits,
Yeah. Yeah, unless it's like a good MC foam that's been shaped correctly and they have welds in there and stuff. It's hard.
Yeah. I don't think this is a change that matters. I don't hate it.
Me either.
I don't think it does much. All right. Magic balls cannot use duct tape as a cover. I didn't know that
see that. Yeah, I didn't know that was actually in there. I didn't know people were doing that.
Yeah, that's it. I figured that had been a rule for 20 years. I don't know.
Yeah, like don't all spell balls have to have a cloth cover?
You would think so, because I know throwies do, because I can't have plastic throwies. Because I thought that would be cool for a long time to make like actual, like a mug that is plastic and throw that in.
Yeah.
That's not allowed. So it, I don't know. I don't think this one matters too.
No, that seems, I'm surprised that wasn't there.
Yeah. I mean, good, safe. It's safer. This is one. It's like, oh, you figured this would be in there all the time.
I assume it's one of those clarification things.
Yeah. Summon Dead works on players who are at their respawn rather than just their base. For example, a golem or a player next to Heart of the Swarm. I have no idea what this changes. I get like...
Maybe, I'm assuming it's just one of those clarifications that I assume the wording on Summon Dead was only from at base or at their base or at
place of death
where they died. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's probably adding a third clarification location. Like it could be base, it could be respawn, it could be where they died.
Okay, I guess fine.
Which is odd because you can summon dead people who are walking by you.
Yeah, I don't think that one matters too terribly much.
No.
Adaptive blessings may be worn alongside EX protection enchantments. I thought that's how it was anyway.
Well, I'm sure there's some limitation in the wording originally on adaptive blessing that said it couldn't be worn.
Or
you play healer more than I do.
Mm-hmm. I know that the EX can go on top of it because I know like Pally's, my extend immunities is an EX and it goes over the top
there's a limitation on the spell that says does not count towards a player's enchantment limit, but may not be worn with other enchantments from the protection school. So I guess you could wear this with what other EX protective enchantments are there? Ancestral Armor, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Phoenix Tears. Okay. How you feeling on that one? I don't think
it's a big deal because most people don't take adaptive protection.
Yeah.
And the only ones who were scouts, and now they have adaptive protection.
Yeah, I don't think that's a huge deal. All right, Essence Graph only limits players receiving magical enchantments from other players, meaning that players will still use their EX enchantments on themselves while enchanted with Essence Graph.
I assume that's always how it was. Yeah.
Again, I feel like this is just a clarification. Like, good, it's there, but something that's not going to come into play too terribly often.
Oh, well, it does. Limitations of Essence Graph do say bearer may only wear enchantments from the caster of Essence Graph. So I guess like maybe warriors who want to enchant themselves after they've gotten something, or a scout who had Golem and then went to put adaptive protection on themselves after the fact.
So this just makes it to where you can still use your abilities even after.
I suppose so, yeah.
Okay, that's fine, I guess. Again, I feel like that's one that I've never been called on and I've never seen anyone called on. So.
Yeah, it's weird because that's just odd. Because Golem makes all the enchantments you have persistent, so I don't know any situation in which that would actually matter. Not realistically speaking.
All right, moving on. I'm interested to get your opinion on this one because I have a fairly strong opinion on this one. So zinc is no longer approved as material for arrow blunts. A recommended method is to use a steel washer built up with strapping tape. This means most U.S. pennies are made out of zinc. Pennies are not allowed to be used as in arrows anymore.
I don't particularly care about this one, although it says the size of the washer is. That says the size of the washer is basically that's recommended now is going to be larger than what a penny would be, right? Not
by a lot, if I recall, but
I really don't like it. Says the recommended method is a steel washer built up with strapping tape. Like that's fine because that's how I made my arrows. A steel washer is fine, but most people have been already using steel washers anyway with a bolt in it. I don't think this one matters. It just makes people update their arrows. That's kind of a pain in the butt, though.
So I say 1 star for this one because this overnight makes every Gorg arrow illegal. This makes, how many arrows in Amtgard from 1 week to the other are just now illegal and you have to tear them all down. And then there's no easy way to check this without tearing apart an arrow.
It's completely non-enforceable.
Yeah.
I mean, if it was me and I didn't want to spend the money on the arrows again, I would just leave my arrows exactly how they were and then tell the reef, prove to me it's not that way.
Yep.
I know it sounds shitty, but
yeah. And I'm glad there was another one that was similar to this where they were going to make arrows have to be 3/4 of an inch instead of half an inch on, and that would have done the same thing essentially of every arrow in Amtgard is now illegal.
Yeah, and unfortunately, this rule is really similar to like when we go from different revisions where it changes the armor rules, because then players subsequently change how they make armor, and I just don't think this is a good change for the game, because I think, like, if I consider what the baseline of players were doing anyways, most players are using manufactured arrows. I feel like they are, at least, and those manufactured arrows, quote unquote, were already constructed in such a way where they wouldn't come apart. Like if I had arrows right now, every component of my arrow is dapped or use contact cement or whatever together. Like the blunt is contact cement, the cone is contact cement, the foam on top of every layer is contact cement, and then has tape over it. So it's like it's really unrealistic that player's gonna take apart all their arrows to do that. Yeah. If they weren't, they're made with modular heads. If they're made with modular heads, a lot of them couldn't fit that design. So it's just not a great change.
Well, and overnight, we have taken off of the field the safest arrows that we have. Like Gorg arrows are 10 times more I'd rather get hit in the face with a Gorg arrow than an Amtgard arrow in the chest.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And so now all of those arrows, the safest arrows on the field, are now not going to be allowed to be played. Yeah,
or anyone cross-gaming over who doesn't actually read all the rules is going to have that too. I don't know. This is a really unenforceable rule, and therefore it's bad in my opinion. So I think everyone's just going to ignore this rule anyway.
I think so also. It's one of those where we'll see, but here's something else. So we are bringing this over from DAG. Arrows that allow for more than 28 inches of draw must have a draw stop of some kind to prevent them from being drawn more than 28 inches. Generally in DAG, this is done with just electrical tape, just one layer, and roll it up. Not 1 star. I think it's fine. I don't think it changes anything too drastic. I think that it's just going to be a hassle for everyone to fix their arrows, and it realistically isn't going to change that much on the field because I don't see that many people drawing, 36-inch arrows out of longbows. It just doesn't happen that way.
I mean, this seems like a perfectly fine rule. It's also really easy to implement too. Like you said, you just roll up some electrical tape or whatever tape you
spend an afternoon and you can update your stuff. It's not like the previous change where you have to tear everything down and then rebuild potentially everything.
Yeah, I would probably, instead of using electrical tape, I would maybe do something where like I put some ultralight foam that's adhered to the core in that way. But this seems fine. Like I used to overdraw my. I'm
thinking like the fun foam stuff, like
the sticky back foam. Yeah.
I,
to be fair, I've caused some injuries before when I was using arrows, and I had a bow that was underdraw. What it was supposed to be is like a 26-inch draw, and I was using 31-inch arrows, so I was drawing way past than what the bow allowed to, which produced multiplicative power output. And so I think this is a good safety rule. It's not a big deal. It's easy to implement.
It's fine.
Yeah.
All right. Javelins are shield crushing and armor breaking when thrown. What do you think?
Great. I think it's
this
great for the armor breaking more than the shield crushing, because I don't think someone's going to pick up 3 javelins and break someone's shield, but the armor breaking thing is pretty cool on it. Yeah. I wish.
Good.
No, you're good. I need to look up, see if scouts can have javelins.
I think that this is a buff to all of the melee classes that can use them, which is something that most of them needed. I think that this is a minor, not a massive buff by any means, but it is a minor power bump for a lot of the classes that were underperforming. Just across the board.
This kind of brings back the ability for someone to play a really tanky warrior with a tower shield with the javelins on the back, and they just throw a lot of javelins. Very V6, but it's not terrible. I mean, I think it's a positive. It's just the impact of it isn't amazing, but it's also somewhat helpful.
I think I like it too because it brings back a little bit of the historical aspect to it, because that's like how the Roman army would start. They would throw their javies, they would stick in shields, and they would actually matter. Where I feel like most javies in our game are like,
this feels like a quality of life thing for the people who use javelins a lot. And when I think about like quality of life stuff, I think of like, who would this improve like the median level of player, not like on the bell curve, it's like right in the middle. Like those people are probably gonna have a better time if they're players who use javelins. I know lots of people use javelins, and now that javelins are better, I think people will start bringing them out more.
Well, we've got Phoenix League this weekend, and I sent a message when this went out to everybody else. I generally don't run javies in my Pally kit. But I'm like, all right, everyone bring your javies. We'll just throw them on the field because that's decent now. You know what I mean? It's something I'll actually think about using, where previously it's like, oh, they blocked it with their shield. Oh no. Like it's not worth carrying them. Yeah,
especially in Phoenix League where you have some terrain you can hide behind and force someone to charge you. Like if they stand there, like, I guess I'll throw 3 javelins at you. Yeah.
I like this one. I'm glad.
Yeah, me too.
A weird one here. Siege weapons are allowed in any game with permission of the game runner and can be destroyed through methods they prescribe rather than being affected by weapon destroying as other weapons are.
This is weird. I feel like there was someone who had like a ballista or trebuchet and just kept getting mad that they couldn't use it. And I'm like, to that person, I would just want to know who hurt you. Like, this isn't that big of a thing. It's kind of neat. This is very much like V7, V6-ish, where people used to bring siege weapons out on the field all the time. Maybe this is kind of cool quality of life stuff for like large events and stuff where you don't have time to like ask the event runner if you can bring something. And that way you can kind of like make ninja plans where it's like, all right, everyone, we're going to bring in a bunch of siege weapons and put them in the woods or something like that. So it's kind of cool. Good. That's a good quality of life thing that might make someone have some more fun with Amtgard, and I'm all about that.
I like it too because with siege weapons, right? When I'm going to an event, I have a limited amount of space in my vehicle to get my stuff there, and most siege weapons are pretty large. And so I could see if I spend all that effort and all that, limited resource of space in my vehicle to get there and not be able to use it, I'd be upset. So I get this. Again, I just don't think it affects most players on it. All right. Anybody can post when wounded, regardless of their ability to take immunity.
So I love this rule because that's how I played it anyway. The issue with posting before was that
you muted yourself.
The thing about the posting rule was that it said you could only do it if you had a medical necessity before, and it's like. This has happened to me before where I was like, I'm posting and they're like, you can't post, you don't have a medical necessity. I'm like, prove I don't have a medical necessity.
Yeah.
And they're like, I can't. I'm like, okay, that's what I thought. Like all I have to say is my knee hurts. So this just makes it gets rid of the judiciation of it, and that's how it should be played anyways.
Yeah, it's just a good clarification that makes it to where there's fewer arguments and we have to pause the fight to figure out what's going on and just let people play. Just smooths everything out. I'm good with that one. Traits take effect before immunities, which take effect before resistances. If you're immune to command, you will not lose your blessing against harm when awe is cast on you.
Thank God.
You like that? I don't even know what this is talking about.
So this is like some stupid shit from back in like the early days of V8 where the rules organizer, JP or whatever his name is, was making really bad clarifications on like if a monk has blessing against harm on them, they're immune to all verbals because they have enlightened soul. And then they say I'm a monk and someone casts all at me, it would get rid of my blessing against harm despite the fact that I'm immune. Or like
I gotcha.
I think what was another common one? Like I don't want to say it was with stone skin. It was with something similar to that where it's like if I'm immune to it, why would I take damage from it? It just didn't make any sense. So I'm glad they put this in there because the clarifications that were being made were so stupid.
Okay. So how impactful do you think this is on a normal field? Is this something that's going to come into play like every Kingdom game, or is this more neat? I'm trying to decide, is this like upper 2-star or is it actual 3-star for you?
Oh, here's another one where it mattered, I think. If I'm a monk and I have iron skin and someone throws a fireball at me, but I have or if I have spellball block and I block the fireball, I still lost a point of armor, which didn't make any sense. No, it wasn't Iron Skin. It must have been Stone Skin. Yeah, it was Stone Skin. But I think it's good. Like, I think it's a good quality of life change, but also I think we are already playing this way to begin with. And I think a lot of people were, just because that's the way that makes the most logical sense to play it. I'm pretty happy that it's there.
Good. I like that one then. For me, it's one that's just like, okay, cool. I've never seen this interaction. It's not one that I participated with too much. So next up, players can repair all armor by spending 60 seconds at their base.
This is kind of neat. I think it's just a nice quality of life change for the game. I think a lot of players had to make up that rule at their local parks and stuff like that, where it used to be just a rule in V7 and V6 that you just could do that. And I think newer players who play V8 just didn't know that was a thing. So they had to rely on like having aged players at their park for them to do that. But this is great.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I remember one of my questions as a new player was, does our armor get all of its points back when we die? Because that was kind of a vague thing, you know. I like this. I think that this is good overall. Song of Survival cannot trigger twice on the same life if you keep chanting.
I'm glad this is a thing. Right. This is only a thing for a couple Paragon Bards that I know of, some in the Wetlands and some in the RW, where they would have Song of Survival and then they would do something basically where they got released from Song of Survival after they got hit. So if I'm a bard with Song of Survival, someone would kill me. I'm insubstantial now. Someone would release me from it, and I could keep doing my Song of Survival again because I didn't die and I didn't come out of that state. So this is a nice way of making the spell play as it feels like it was supposed to be played. So it gets rid of loopholing. I
gotcha. And that's always good. Again, streamlining combat so you don't have people yelling at each other in the middle of the field. All right. You don't have to stay away from dead players when you are affected by agoraphobia, awe, or terror.
The agoraphobia one I feel kind of bad about. Awe and terror, a little different because you always have the thing of a bard casting these spells on a healer, and then you would make it to where you could zone a healer out from being able to resurrect people. And with agoraphobia, they just couldn't be around other people. And now it kind of nerfs that ability for bards to zone out people using those things. And mostly the clarification I think comes from bards casting on people and then the bard dies, but the player said to stay away from the bard's body, which is just weird. But yeah.
That would be interesting because then it's like, okay, is it better for me as the dead player who cast awe to hang out here rather than going back to start spawning if it's going to zone?
A bard casts awe on like 6 people, then just dies or calls dead, and they have to zone out for 20 or 30 seconds or whatever.
Yeah. There's another similar one. Insult ends immediately if the caster dies.
This is the same thing from the bard's perspective, and I like this change too because it just creates less battlefield confusion and makes the gameplay better.
Again, another one of those just smoothing things out so it runs.
Yeah.
Wound and kill trigger abilities can trigger outside of melee combat specifically.
I think this one's really good, actually.
This one's huge. I think this is one of the bigger changes on this list.
Yeah, because it means you can use Assassinate, you can use Brutal Strike, you can use, which comes up later in their conversation, I'm sure, for some of the things. But I think this is pretty awesome.
This is a fun one, too, because if you can get those things that are kill trigger and then do them on the Javies that we were just talking about, that is now 2 specific buffs to every class that can use Javies here without maybe necessarily getting direct buffs, just from overall game mechanic buffs. I'm excited to see how people use this. Can you think of any way, does this help Archer out at all?
I don't think they have any kill triggers.
Okay. Are there any enchantments that you could put on archers that would then give them kill triggers? Scavenge or something? I guess you
Vampirism. Because vampirism gives them adrenaline. Not anything I think of the top of my head.
Because I feel like that would be that this opens the possibility to throw kill triggers with bows, which would be super fun for me. And I think that that's a cool little buff to those classes.
Yeah, the only thing I think of is kill triggers. Assassinate, Brutal Strike, Adrenaline, Blood and Thunder. I don't think I'm missing any. If I'm thinking about it.
I like this one. I think this one's
it wouldn't matter if you had magical items. If I had a magical item that gave me Brutal Strike and I was playing an archer, I could Brutal Strike somebody from forever away.
Yeah, that could make some really fun, different gameplay.
Yeah, like I could make, if I was a game runner, I could make a bow that gave you Brutal Strike Unlimited or something, or however you wanted to do it.
I love it. That's so funny to me. This is gonna be a good one, Net Players. I'm excited to see. I hope that, I guess we should say this to clarify, all of these things are going into playtesting for a year. So technically they're in the rules and we're playing by them now, but there's a year's worth of playtesting. They're going to vote on all of these changes next year to see if they stick around.
Yeah, and I assume the RW is going to find some ways to break some of the stuff and see what happens.
Of course.
We just have to make sure we get the data to be like, hey, this stuff's really broken. We shouldn't do this.
Yeah,
I assume some of that might come up later, but who knows?
I have a feeling that some of these class buffs are going to get rolled back. But so getting to some of the fun stuff. So you want to play anti-pally. Changes for anti-pally. Look the part is now terror once per life. They change poison to per life. Level 3, it looks like Steel Life Essence got a charge. Brutal Strike got a charge. Terror got a buff, or terror once per life. And then the big one, Flame Blade. So how are you feeling overall about the anti-pally buffs?
Okay, so since V8 came out, I have not thought highly of Paladin or anti-Paladin. There's certainly been good players who made that class stand out, but those players were always better at playing something else, despite them playing an anti-Paladin. I thought anti-Paladin was pretty like C tier, maybe D tier, as far as melee is considered. And not even melee, just classes in general. I think they're A+ or S tier with this change.
So 3-star, great change.
Yeah, I think it's incredible. There's just tons of interaction.
What makes them significantly better now off of this?
So this, along with a lot of other changes happening, because this anti-Paladin and Paladin get better, you'll see less of particular other classes. The thing that makes AP really good is that they have obviously immunity to command, most common spell type, immunity to flame, great. They're immune to
their pulls can't get heated. That's the big.
Pulls can't get heated. They're immune to lightning bolts. They're immune to fireballs. No one really uses fireball, but the important thing is heat weapon and
armor destroying or whatever that spell is.
Is that a flame spell? Pyrotechnics. I don't think they're immune to it because it destroys their equipment, not their weapon.
Gotcha.
It targets their equipment, not them. But the Pro Flame is really good just because of lightning bolt and heat weapon. And then they get Terror, which is a 50-foot spell, and it's death magic, which is like one of the fewest resistances that people carry with them, besides like people who have Golem or Phoenix Steers or Paladins. Yeah, they can't fear Paladins, but Paladins also can't all them, so it's whatever. But they get Terror, which is a fourth level bard spell that's per refresh, and it has a 50-foot range. They get it twice per life, which is just phenomenal. The poison weapon they get is awesome because it's once per life charge times 3, and they get Steel Life Essence charge times 3, and they get Brutal Strike charge times 3. The thing that made anti-Paladin was really good before was that you could give them Void Touch, and they're immune to every single school of magic that had verbal attached with them. So the only thing they were weak against was spell balls, which they're immune to one of the most common spell balls, Lightning Bolt. I think a Paladin can essentially go around the field and be more effective than an Assassin can, because they can assassinate someone they can kill somebody, either Brutal Strike them or Steel Life Essence them and just recharge their Steel Life Essence off their Steel Life Essence. It's just insane. The Flame Blade is pretty cool. The thing I like about Flame Blade the most is that it's an EX enchantment, which means that it doesn't stack with their normal other enchantments, which makes anti-Paladin. So back in V7, in V6, you'd have these things called Robo Scouts, and Robo Scouts were just scouts that you gave them 2 separate enchantments, and they just did a lot of damage. Paladins can essentially do the exact same thing because they have Flameblade. They have 1 weapon buff and they have 4 points of armor. Mm-hmm. And so they can do stuff where you're like, I'll play Paladin and get Void Touch and like
Anti-Paladin.
Oh, sorry, Anti-Paladin. Yeah, I can play Anti-Paladin and get Flameblade and maybe Void Touched and Imbue Shield. Or I can get Flameblade, Golem, and something else. And they're still immune to a ton of schools of magic. Yeah. And it's insane. Like, I think we're going to be seeing a lot more people who maybe played Warrior before playing Anti-Paladin or Paladin.
That's my concern right now is I made my tier list a couple of months back. And since I made that tier list, Paladin was already creeping up the more that I had seen it become unlocked and see, more players utilizing it. With these buffs and with Paladin buffs, I think Warrior might be... Warrior is no longer the only good melee class that you should play. And I still think it's probably the best, but it's not the best by a mile anymore, like what it used to be.
Yeah, because the other melee classes were like, Warrior was the best in melee combat, period. And the other classes were like, we're okay in melee combat, but we make for that up in utility. And it's like if you compared Warrior and Scout, you'd be like, yeah, you're a Scout with Hold Person, but you can't go fight that Warrior because he's going to kill you. Mm-hmm. But now there's some other melee classes that are contentious with Warrior, and they're good in different vectors. Like, I was talking with my fighting company about this today, where I was like, I think Anti-Paladin is better than Warrior in almost most applicable situations that are pretty versatile. Like, if you're on a small team, if you're doing small battle games, if you're doing Phoenix League, I think Anti-Paladin is really good. I think Warrior shines out when you're doing bigger games where I might specialize our composition a little bit more, and stuff where there's a ton of Warriors. If you're with other Warriors, then the Warrior's still amazing, but just because they have Scavenge and Ancestral Armor. But you can also put Ancestral Armor on Anti-Paladin now.
Yeah, I feel like the CC that Anti-Paladin and Paladin bring now with Terra and Awe, respectively, I think is on smaller like Phoenix League or Bridge Battles. Those are almost more, the CC is almost more valuable now than the extra 2 points of armor you get, assuming that they're fully kitted out. Yeah,
and like it's weird that they changed it because Paladin or they're immune to each other's magic, which is cool. But it used to be that all Paladins and Anti-Paladins were immune to each other, but an Anti-Paladin isn't immune to another Anti-Paladin's terror, which is kind of weird. Yeah. But a Paladin is immune to another Paladin's all.
Yep.
So like you could do situations where like, how do we counter Anti-Paladins? Oh, just have more Anti-Paladins.
Which is okay though, because I felt like Anti-Paladins needed the buff more than Paladin did.
Yeah, I don't think they were very good beforehand.
Yeah, there was almost no situation where Anti-Paladin was like, oh, I need Anti-Paladins on my team to make this strat work. Now you at least have the flexibility to swap them out. If like it used to be, if someone was playing Anti-Paladin on my Phoenix League team, I was like, all right, but now it's like, okay, cool. We've got an Anti-Paladin. We can make this work.
Yeah, and I like that this kind of restores Anti-Paladin to the way it was when V8 was being play tested, when they originally had Flameblade. And they took it away because they're like, we want Druids to be able to give people Flameblade. We'll give them Undead Minion instead, which I don't like that as an Anti-Paladin player, because I always think Anti-Paladins are like heavy engaged shock troopers. And like, I don't always want to be interacting with my team and like, oh, let me go turn that guy into Minion real quick. But it's whatever. It's different themes and stuff like that. And I feel like this really expresses in my head canon of what an Anti-Paladin is.
Yeah, I agree. It's good thematically. It's good on the field overall. 3-star, great changes. Archer's Mend is now rechargeable ×5, and check the general. Oh, and the arrow construction. So essentially, Mend is just now rechargeable ×5. It was probably ×10 before, I'm assuming, or not chargeable at all. I don't know.
I don't think it was chargeable. Let me look. Mend was once per life.
Okay. So, yeah, they just added a charge ×5.
Good quality of life thing, because there's situations where it's like you're going to be alive for a while. Your bow gets broke. You mend it again. It gets broken again. You're like, well, I guess I'll call dad because I can't go find a mend or something. So good quality of life change, but they got that. So they got an indirect nerf, though, because you're going to have to change all your arrows out.
Yeah. So 2 or 3
arrows out.
I feel like this is, if you are an Archer main, this is a great change for you.
Sure.
Because it allows you to stay on the field longer, not have to run up and get mins as often.
Mm-hmm.
But at least where we play, there aren't that many archers. And so I don't think as a whole that this affects the game massively. And so that's why I'm leaning towards 2-star for this one. What do you think?
It does fulfill my headcanon of like the when he has to recharge, when the archer has to recharge their men. In my headcanon, it's like, oh, he's pulling another bowstring out of his thing and then stringing his bow or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's kind of neat.
I like that. Yeah. Where he's like fixing it,
I would even do that as like, if I was like, as part of the part for archer, I'd be like, oh, I have my little satchel with my bow repair stuff in it.
That's cool. All right. It looks like nothing changed on assassin, but assassin, like what you were talking about earlier with anti-pally being better, now maybe doesn't have as good of a spot on the field.
So I was talking with Ash Palantir about this today, and we came to the consensus of, so like in Amtgard you have direct buffs, which are things like directly applied to classes, then you have indirect buffs or indirect nerfs that happen because of meta shifts and stuff like that. And one of the things that happened with Assassin is 4 classes got a lot better on the field. Mm-hmm. Monk, Barbarian, Paladin, Anti-Paladin, right? So all those classes have armor. Except Monk, I guess, right? Monk got Banish, which counters Assassins. Anti-Paladin has basically unlimited Steel Life Essence if they wanted it. They can, but basically unlimited Steel Life Essence. Barbarians have chargeable Brutal Strikes. So there's not going to be any shortage of people giving out curse effects. Mm-hmm. And there's not going to be any shortage of people countering Assassins now, because now that there's 2 melee classes with direct counters to Assassins, and this is just one of those situations where I think Assassin got a really bad indirect nerf, which kind of sucks because I didn't think they're in an amazing place, but they weren't also terrible either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, before all of this, they at least held a specific spot on the field. Like, you knew what Assassins were good at, and in some games they weren't going to be great, but in other games they were going to shine a whole lot.
Yeah, and in most games, when I was playing Assassin, it's like you always had to worry about the scouts on the enemy team, or which their one job is like counter Assassins. And then you had to worry about maybe like bards or healers who had greater release, who go, oh, when I'm not doing anything, I can counter Assassins. And then now you have another class that's Monk, who, because they don't have any armor, are usually on the back line. And because of other things that happen with their kit, they can go, oh, I can counter Assassins. So now everyone looks at you when you're trying to cross into the enemy back line. It's just not super great.
Yeah, it's one of those where nothing directly hit the Assassin, but we'll see. They will probably need to buff it a little bit.
The terrain changed on him a little bit.
Yeah. All right. Next, we have Barbarians. Javelins affect them. Brutal Strike, Adrenaline, Blood and Thunder work when you kill someone at range.
Blood and Thunder? Oh, my God. I didn't even realize that they could do that. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. And then your Look the Part changed to Fight After Death. Your Brutal Strike became Charge ×3, and your Blood and Thunder became Unlimited. 1, 2, 3 star. What do you think?
I think this is a 3-star. I am over the moon with the changes they made to this, because I used to love playing Barbarian in V7 just because it was so it was just awesome, right? Mm-hmm. And I feel like they I hated the changes in V8 for Barbarian because it lost that feeling of like, I'm always killing people and getting back my stuff or doing whatever. And Blood and Thunder used to be 3 per refresh or 2 per refresh, and it just wasn't enough. It was like, eventually you just lost all your per refresh abilities, and you're just kind of you're basically playing militia with armor. These changes are phenomenal. I like going with the javelin stuff. I like that if you're a legged as a barbarian, you could javelin somebody from across the field and adrenaline. Yeah.
Which is cool.
Ranged heal.
I like the combination of the direct buffs here and then the jabby buffs. I like that overall, and I think I don't think that this makes Barbarian top tier by any means, but it at least doesn't make it a detriment on your team if someone's playing Barbarian.
Yeah.
Where would you put them? So if we got Warrior, Anti-Pally now, like up high, or like, I guess just rank the melees for me real quick.
So
where are you thinking?
So I think Barbarian went up because I think its general application got much better. I think a lot of this is quality of life stuff for them. Like, regardless of the extra fight after death, the fact they have chargeable Brutal Strike and Blood and Thunder Unlimited just makes them a more viable standard class to play. I would say before this, they were either C, maybe like C- on their general play level. And then depending on the scenario, they were like A-, A+. But it really depended, and it only depended because of fight after death. Because some games, fight after death changes everything. Now that they've changed it, I would say the Barbarian is like B+, A-. They're still really strong. They have super good immunities with Subdual and Command. I think with some of the changes that are going to shift in the meta, people are going to be using more Subdual spell balls because most of the classes are going to be immune to a lot more verbal magic, and they're immune to Subdual. So they're just kind of more viable. And because they have Blood and Thunder, I think you can just win most exchanges. Like, I was playing it this weekend, and we were playing a full class Warlord game, and we started in a giant circle. And I basically we started the game, and I was wearing like chainmail or whatever. I immediately turned to my left, and all I had was chainmail on. I immediately started killing people and walking down the line, and I would just continuously attack them. And I didn't care if they hit me back. They hit me back, and I would just Blood and Thunder. And then I go to the next person. I fight them. They get through my resistant point. I kill them. I get my Blood and Thunder back, and it just allows you to keep going and going and going and going and going. It's so fun.
Well, I like that they shifted the power balance a little bit within the class and made it to where your power doesn't rely on an ability in which you have to die as much anymore. That was always the downside for me, is that you had to die to access your power. Now, with making these unlimited and giving charges, you still have that nuke that you can use, but your class isn't garbage if you're not able to do that. Yeah,
or like you either had to die or you had to take a wound to use any of your abilities. And if you weren't doing that, you're just playing Militia.
Yeah, pretty much.
I think they're pretty good. I like that we have another class that has armor breaking that's prevalent and in the meta, and it's just really good. Also, their Javelin death triggers are super awesome.
I'm excited. I think this one is going to be the most fun to watch people do with the range kill triggers and then the jabbies. Like, this is the class that I'm excited for. And you know that like Barbarians are in general some of the flurrier people on the field. And so they're the ones who are going to love the jabbies and actually go into some of that type of, stuff more than some of the other players. I'm excited for this one.
Yeah. I could definitely see some Barbarians with like center grip shields and javelins attached to the back of them.
Which would be cool. All right, Bard, Song of Power incants now are I sing to inspire my comrades in arms. Awe, Terror, and Agoraphobia won't work against your target. Won't work against your targets while you're dead. Insult incant is now I command thy attention that removes Sarah. Insult ends when you die. Song of Song, we already did that one. Paladin's extended immunities can offer an immunity to command or death. Why is that in here? Oh, well. Okay. Overall, Bard, how you feeling? I don't know why they put...
because it indirectly affects them, because Paladin's extended immunities could give people blessing against command, and typically I just awe somebody twice to get rid of it.
I gotcha. Okay.
Similar to Shove with Adaptive Blessing. Okay, I see.
Overall, this feels like a Bard nerf. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Is that good or bad?
I don't think it's particularly good. Like, it didn't help them in the areas that I felt like they needed help with. Like, they made their insult better, which is great, but that just makes it congruent with other stuff. The change of Song of Power is whatever. It's not a mathematical change in how the class is played or anything like that.
What was it before this? I'm not super familiar with Bard.
I think it's my Brothers in Arms, probably.
Okay, I gotcha.
So just made it more congruent with our culture. The All in Terror change, kind of a nerf to them. More of a clarification thing. Song of Survival's kind of a nerf to them if you knew how to do it. Yeah, and then the two changes with the other classes that indirectly affected them with the adaptive protection changes affected them a bit. I think there's a ton of indirect nerfs to Bard, and it changes the way that the class is going to be played on a particular level. Like you could do stuff with Bard where you're playing with a ton of Aws or whatever, and now those players are going to have a worse time on the field.
Yeah.
They're going to have to just play differently. I think this pushes Bard towards a particular way of fighting or a particular way of playing the class that just, I don't know if it's good or worse. It's just not one I like to play.
I get you. I felt like Bard was already the least powerful of the casters, which granted is still pretty dang good compared to some of the other melee classes. But I feel like this just knocks Bard down a peg again out of all the casters. Like, I don't know why they're directly or indirectly nerfing Bard while buffing Druid. That just seems so strange to me.
So the weird thing is because other classes got better, but all those classes that got better all have immunity to command. And then the other class that doesn't have immunity to command can get immunity to command. And one of the classes with immunity to command can give other people immunity to command. That the only viable spells that a Bard has to affect people, they have Stun, which is per refresh. Not a great spell anyway. They have Terror, great spell, also per refresh. And then they have Shove at first level. And Shove is, if you've played in a meta where someone's like, I'm going to take 20 shoves this game, it is the worst time you'll have playing a battle game. I think even worse than getting odd because I'm like, sweet, I have to keep walking backwards. This is super fun. It's just, they didn't do anything to buff Bard in the way that mattered. Like, I felt like, so there are some changes that were proposed that the rules reps didn't vote on, like giving Bard per life break concentrations, reducing the cost of their equipment because first level armor costs 4 points, second point of armor at 6th level costs 2 points, and then it's like a long sword costs 4 points, a medium shield costs 3 points or 4 points, and then short swords cost 2 points. But it's like a ton of power in their equipment. So they didn't get anything they actually needed. And then they're kind of shoved towards a particular way of playing where I think they're going to be more of a support class now, more than they were an offensive spellcaster.
Yeah, this was weird to me. These Bard here and then going down, we can go ahead and go into Druid. I did not understand these at all. Grasping Tentacles is now called Snaring Vines. Fine. Grasping Tentacles now has 3 uses instead of 5, but it no longer stops you. Essence Graft Incant is now enchanted with Essence Graft. Fine. Essence Graft no longer prohibits players from enchanting themselves with their own EX enchantments. Fine. Corrosive Mist is now 3 red instead of 5 red. And again, it no longer stops you. Those right there, Corrosive Mist and Grasping Tentacles, those are massive buffs, in my opinion. Do you agree?
Yeah, they're massive buffs. And also, like, I get what they're doing. They're like, hey, there's these enchantments that Druids have that no one takes because they suck. And they suck because if you took away them being stopped, they would be insane. And like, Druid was already like, that's fine. I understand doing that. I think there's a good quality of life change for Druids. I just wish they would have done it with other stuff that maybe like brought them down a little bit and then it kind of evens itself out again. Because Druid is the best class in the game. Yeah. Generally speaking.
It doesn't need any help. And what'd you go and do? You gave it help. Like, why? Why?
It just lets me play differently if I want to play a melee Druid, I can give myself a tune and then I can put Lycanthropy on myself and give myself Corrosive Mist, run around the field as a warlord, destroying other people's equipment and then killing them with my sword because it's funny. But I cancel it and put another one on myself because it's funny.
Well, in the Grasping Tentacles one, there's Snaring Vines now.
Snaring Vines
is so good. I mean, just that's such a quick cast and
it's 3 hold persons, right?
Yeah,
it can be stopped.
Swift hold persons at that, because the incant is so short for it. Like, Druid didn't need this, friends. I don't know why this went through.
It does make it congruent with naturalized magic, so I guess so. Yeah, everyone was really confused in our neck of the woods about why they did that. But also our kingdom is like, our region is like, everyone plays Druid because it's generally the best class. The best class. Even at like IK events where it's like, if you go to Keep, there's a ton of Druids on the field. Yeah.
Kills me. Druid doesn't need the help. Healer, on the other hand, I like these ones. Greater Harden is now 1 point instead of 2. Adaptive Blessing no longer has a maximum, so you can buy as many as you want. Ancestral Armor now costs 1 instead of 2. Imbue Shield grants 2 uses per purchase, but has a limit of 2 purchases. And then a lot more people will be using Brutal Strike, so be ready to deal with more cursed players. Overall, how are you feeling on this one?
It looks like it makes Warder much better. But I didn't think Warder was bad to begin with. But I feel like this rounds out their tool set a little bit more. Mm. The only issue is there's already the game is already saturated with a lot of enchantments, and as a player, you have a lot of decisions on what kind of enchantments you want to take from a spellcaster. And usually, you're going to take either an armor enchantment, a widely protective magical enchantment, or you're going to take a damage improvement enchantment. Which is going to be Flameblader and Imbue Shield. You're going to take either Pro Mag or Enlightened Soul, or you take Stone Skin or Iron Skin. Generally.
Like Pro Proj, maybe.
Yeah, Pro Proj, maybe. But those 6 enchantments are really, really, really good. And I don't know anyone, if you could help it, would want Greater Harden. Greater Harden's, it's whatever. They can't make it any better or worse than it is. But at least they made it more cost effective for warders to buy. Adaptive Blessing has no maximum. That's kind of cool. You can give your whole team a bunch of Adaptive Blessings, which would kind of suck if you had if you're like a Warlock was in the enemy team. You're like, cool, I'm gonna give everyone on my team Blessing its death, and they just proceed to eat it for a long time. Ancestral Armor is cool. I like that it's cheaper. Imbue Shield. I don't know why they put a maximum on Imbue Shield. I don't know why, but seems good.
Yeah, all of these I think are good buffs for healer. I don't know if it necessarily needed any buffs. Like I didn't feel healer was in a bad place. These aren't. I don't feel are going to be game breaking buffs, but I don't think it's not inherently bad either. Like I don't think it's going to wreck anything. Yeah,
like it might change people from who played priest warders to just straight warders. And this might matter on like big battle game fields like Keep on the Borderlands or. Gathering in clans, whatever. But overall, like for a general Amtgarder, I don't think this affects their day-to-day gameplay at all.
I agree. All right. Moving down to Monk. Monk, your 4th level heal can be used on other people now. Good. May use Heavy Throne from level 1. Fine. Your class is pretty different now. Here's how it levels up. So your heal is range touch. You get Banish at level 2, once per life charge times 5. Your heal, range touch, and your resurrect gets a charge times 5. How are you feeling about this one?
So I kind of like the changes they made for Monk. There's some things that were proposed. I think it might have been a little bit better, but this is pretty good. I like that. Monk was always weird. It was like you could heal yourself, and you could resurrect other people, but you couldn't heal other people, which was so whatever. But I like that it makes it more congruent with each other, where it's like now I'm just now I can be a backline support fully if I need to, and I like that they have Banish now. So when they're on backline support, like casting resurrects and heals, and fighting with their polearm or whatever, they can see an assassin coming and they can banish the assassin, or they can do the same thing to anyone who's insubstantial, basically. And if you guys don't know what Banish is, because I don't know if anyone actually takes Banish, it sends an insubstantial player back to their base.
Yeah, nice little power bump, gives them a little bit more to be doing on the field. I don't think this moves them way up the tier list for me. I don't think it was enough in that sense, but I do think Monk needed a little bit of love, and they got a little bit of love. Could they have used a little bit more? Probably, yeah. But I think that overall, pretty decent changes.
Yeah, I figured some of their power would have been shifted more offensively than it would support, but I also don't know if it needed to be. So,
yeah, I feel like Monk is still probably the worst class, or one of the worst classes, even with these. Like for me, it's Monk and Archer are the 2 worst.
You think Archer's worse than Assassin?
By far. I think Assassin with all of, and I put Scout is fairly low too, but I think Assassin with all of their get out of jail free cards. Just being able to disrupt people casting at you by stepping into shadows and blinking is just so useful. I like Assassin because Assassin also has multiple ways that you can play and be decent. With Archers, you do one thing.
Yeah. I guess one thing I didn't think about is despite Monk having heal and resurrect, being able to heal and resurrect other players, there's more brutal strikes and curse effects on the field anyway. So
Doesn't matter.
Like if they don't kill, if the anti-paladin doesn't kill them, they're still brutal striked. Or if they do kill them, they're brutal striked and steal life essence or whatever. So this makes it a lot of situations where it's like, if you don't have a greater release to get rid of their curse, then your resurrect doesn't mean anything anyway. And I think a lot of healers played that way when they took a lot of greater releases or greater resurrects. So
I feel like they could have used the paladin treatment with their heal becoming greater heal and their res becoming greater res. But then again, that makes those two classes are already so similar. It's like if you're going to play monk and you own armor, just play pally. Like there's almost no reason not to play it. So I hope in the future that they can differentiate those classes a little bit more.
And I wish
now
they maybe even like add archetypes that let them play differently. Like I would have liked to see an offensive martial arts monk and then like a religious support monk or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Imagine like a key monk that has some spells in there too, right? Your fireballs or your, you know what I mean? Like that could be kind of cool.
Yeah, because everyone has different headcanons on what a monk is. And this, I feel like, is a particular headcanon that's not like martial arts monk. Because this to me does not say martial arts monk at all. No,
not at all. All right, moving on to monster. Anti-paladins wear silver sashes now. You need to identify yourself with your garb. Cool. Moving on. That's
not in the rule book.
Yeah. All right, Paladin. You're probably going to need a gold sash or a second phoenix. Javelins are shield crushing, armor breaking. Extend immunities confers an immunity to commander death instead of resistance, which is fairly huge. Your class is now different. You get greater heal, greater res, and then so for me, I think these are massive buffs. I would put it at 3-star, but I'm also a Pally main, so I might be a little biased on here. Where do you think this falls?
I think these are really good, and this makes Paladin much more distinct at feeling like a cleric almost. I think of it more of a cleric than I would a Paladin.
Which is what it should be. I love it.
I kind of hated that they just had normal resurrect where I'm like, resurrect is fine, but like, you give people pro mag, so like you can't even resurrect the people who have pro mag with you, but now you can, and they get to keep their pro mag, which is awesome,
which is huge.
And you can heal your guys pro mag as well.
Yep, and the extended immunities now being actual like full immunity, not just once, is massive. We were playing Phoenix League just a couple weekends ago. We were practicing, and there were 2 paladins on the other side, and our bard couldn't do anything. You got 4 people on the field, 2 of them are pallies, 2 extend immunities. Like that shuts down.
That's 4 people.
That shuts down so many people, especially in small games. I think. Again, I'm torn. I think they overtuned Pally. I think Pally was already in a pretty decent spot. Then maybe if you would have done just the extend immunities change, or just the heal res change, I think that would have been probably right where it needed to be.
I could see that, yeah.
Doing both of them, I mean, I think this is going to be up there, maybe even better than Warrior at this point. Like, this is really good.
I think there's some situations where, again, like Anti-Paladin, I think it's better than Warrior. I think on a generalized field, like, depending on, like, how the battle game's set up or whatever, I think it is better, as good, or slightly worse than Warrior, but it's certainly not bad.
It's close, yeah.
Like if you really, really wanted to, you could play a Paladin, like an offensive Paladin. You could extend immunity to someone on your team, run out there, die, resurrect, come back, put another extended immunities on your whole team, and like as long as they're not dying a lot, you can just keep casting extended immunities on them. And it's only charged ×3. Like you could almost start the game and probably get 3 extended immunities off before you had to be in the middle of the field.
Yep. These changes are nutty. I think this will get nerfed next time around. I don't think both of these changes stick.
Yeah, I would like to see the extended immunities, like you said, one or the other, not both. But it also kind of needed to be that way to counter anti-paladins, because anti-paladins have a lot in their kit too.
If these changes stick, they need to give Bard more in their kit to deal with it. Just because I understand the rock, paper, scissors type of mechanics in arcade, but it feels like if you're playing Bard, you have nothing you can do against Paladins. They have more they have more armor than you. You can't do anything with their spells. If you see a Paladin, and that's not fun.
So yeah, I kind of agree with you. Like what it basically does to Bard is that because there's such a prevalence of protection from command now, is that it creates an artificial. You already had one to begin with, but now it's more prevalent of like, if you want to do melee now you have a harder stat check. Well, like I have to have Song of Battle and I have to have Swift Mends. Like technically you can still fight a Paladin because you have Combat Caster. I can fight a Paladin with Song of Battle. I could be fighting them and then I can cast Swift Mend on myself while I'm still fighting them and then go back to casting Song of Battle and keep doing it. But that creates a skill cap of being able to cast and fight. And it has a cap of you have to be as good or as good as them at martial classes. And like I could probably do that. Like I'm pretty good at playing Bard. I played Bard exclusively in V7, but that's still going to be freaking hard. And that skill ceiling, the skill floor kind of went up for them in melee because they're a melee and they're a caster class. Like I feel like that melee floor is pretty high. And
well, there is a difference. There's a difference between you, Warlord, Battlemaster, Sir Raven, and average Bard on the field. You know what I mean?
I was talking to Ash about this today. I'm like, I feel like the median player who plays Bard is not going to have a good time. No, and there was even cases before this where like, if you had a couple barbarians on the field, maybe like a paladin in your park had a paladin or something, that you couldn't really do anything. And now I think it's going to be even worse, where it's like that player's going to show up to park. They're like, oh, sweet, people playing paladin today. And they're not going to have a good time. They don't know how to fight super well. They can cast maybe even proficiently, but like there's just going to be something happens. Like you can't do anything against that guy. Nothing. Yep. And like maybe before where it was like the issue was like we had druids with persistent golems or whatever. You can just kill that player. It's not a big deal. Or you could kill the druid or whatever. But this is just, it's the indirect buffs to barter, I feel are very prevalent. But people have said I'm wrong. So we'll see how many spellcaster bards show up at the next event.
Well, and that's the thing. Even at a park level, this is even less fun for the bard because like you can make the argument that the battery bard is still very good. And because there are going to be more people casting, they're going to be needed more. I get that. Your 4v4, 5v5 games at park are not going to be fun for that bard trying to battle. Like it's just not. It's not a fun class to play in small games or at local level now. If you have a lot of these other classes that are out there.
And the changes that you can make the bard, like I think that insult, I think that should be a sorcery spell and not a command spell, because it's kind of like that should work against anyone if I'm like charismatically taunting them. And like at least but the issue is if that was sorcery, I still have to fight them, or at least they can't help their teammates or whatever. But bards need something to let them do stuff against people who are immune to most of their magic, because they only have 2 schools of magic. They have 2. Like they got shove, but shove's not a real offensive spell. Sorry.
Yeah. So Paladin changes 3-star if you play Pally, 1-star if you play Bard. How about that?
Yeah, they're not having a good time.
Yep. All right. Scout. Your level 6 ability is now Adapted Protection instead of Adapted Blessing. Cool. I mean, that is a sizable buff. Is it enough to bump Scout up my tier list? No. Is it nice to have? Yeah. Cool. But
this kind of depends on its value. Like depending on the field, this could be really good. This could be depends. Like if you were a scout playing against an elemental barrage wizard, you probably wouldn't get much value out of this, or ROI at least. If you're playing against a warlock though, you get pretty good ROI. It's okay, I guess.
Scout's still bad though. This doesn't fix the inherent problems with Scout.
Yeah, it's a quality of life thing, I suppose.
All right, moving on to Warrior. Javelins are shield crushing and armor breaking. Cool. Scavenge works when you kill someone at range. Cool. Insult ends if you die. Cool. Incant is no longer Surah. Cool. I don't think this changes anything for Warriors other than the pre-mentioned Javelin stuff.
Yeah, so like the Surah, the insult change on paper seems good because you're like, wow, this only verbal I have is much faster now. But it's like the people that you're going to be insulting all are immune to command, so it doesn't matter anyway. I wish it was EX. If it was EX, I wouldn't give a crap. Well, I guess that would stop. You could do it through pure permags and stuff like that, but now you can't. You wouldn't be able to do it against paladins and anti-paladins, but you could do it to certainly other people. So
I still think Warrior's great. probably the best melee class. At least it's in contention with some others now, but it's still in that top spot.
Yeah,
I would say.
they didn't do anything to like make them in. They didn't do anything to nerf Warrior, and I don't think they did enough to help the people who thought Warrior was bad. Like in my opinion, the people who I think Warrior is bad are two cases. They are people who wear very heavy armor, and they're people who do not fight very well.
Or people who don't wear armor at all. They're like, Warrior's so terrible.
Don't wear armor at all.
And
like maybe like I think the things I listed are the majority of Warriors. The majority of people I see play Warrior wear super heavy armor. They use a tower shield. They don't fight aggressively, and whatever the other thing you said was.
Mine was they don't have a full kit, right? They go out there with their 3 points or 2 points, right? If you're going out in a Gambi, the class is balanced around having 6 points. If you go out in 2 points, of course it's not going to be as good.
Yeah, and depending on like what kind of warrior you play, you can make magical armor work. Like if I go out as a warrior with iron skin and 2 swords, I can go out there and just use scavenge on repeat, and it won't matter. The javelin scavenge thing is kind of interesting. Like, it seems kind of cool. It's like you imagine this stoic fighter. Like I can imagine Juicy doing this, where he's like has a javelin, just nerfs a noob in the chest, and he's like scavenge. I can see this being, I can see this being the new anti-paladin thing. But
I hope that people spend some time from this and actually make good Javi tech. Like, I hope we get more Javies on the field just because they're a fun thing to interact with. I don't mind getting hit with them. I think they're fun to play with. Like, I like Javies.
Yeah, there's a situation I can see where I'm like, if I learn to throw with my right hand, where like I fight single sword in my left hand, I fight with a strap buckler in my forearm, and I use a javelin to just run around javelin people and then fight them buckler and short sword. But I have to learn to throw with my right hand, which I don't want to do.
Just use it as your down stick, and then just do the little toss, I guess, over here.
Oh,
right? At the last second. Yeah. At the last second, and just chuck it 2 or 3 feet.
Yeah, because javelins can be used in melee, and they're crushing breaking if you throw them. Yeah. And I think javelins can be up to like 6 feet or 7 feet or something like that. They're pretty long.
Yep. It can be fun. You can do some cheese stuff with it.
Yeah.
All right, Wizard, Force Barrier is now 1 per life when purchased rather than 1 per refresh.
I like this change. Initially, I'm like, Wizards don't need more help. This is stupid. But I think for the normal amount of players who play Wizard, this is a great quality of life change. This is also great for complete new players. Like, if you're level 1 Wizard, you can buy a short sword. You have 3, maybe 4 points left. And you're going to spend 1 of those on a per refresh spell you don't get back. Yeah. Like, now it's actually worth spending a point on. And it's just probably better for a good amount of players.
Yeah, for sure. I think it is quality of life, but not majorly going to change the outcome of games very much. Yeah. It's just like, okay, cool. Neat. So out of all of these changes, or if you want to, do you have anything broad topic wise or anything on this that stands out that you want to hit before we close up our video?
I don't think anything. I can't think of anything right now. I will say that maybe like with Paladin, Anti-Paladin, and Bard becoming, or Paladin, Anti-Paladin, and Barbarian becoming better classes, that you'll see more people playing armored classes that just aren't exclusively playing Warrior. Because there were some people who were like, I have 4 points armor, but I'm going to go ahead and play Warrior because those other classes suck.
Yeah.
But now that they don't, you might see them with lower amounts of armor, and it might make armor fighting a little bit more fun and a little bit more accessible for people who didn't just want to play Warrior. Like, I love playing Paladins. I love playing armored, like, Eldritch Knight characters who get magic and they get armor. And now that those classes are actually viable, it makes it more fun. I'm really excited for Barbarian and Anti-Paladin at the most.
Yeah.
We're doing a ton of talk about metas and stuff like that today with my fighting company and stuff, and it's just awesome. What do you think?
Overall, I like it. I think it shuffles up the tier list enough to be interesting, but not anything that is going to like break the game. I don't feel like any of these buffs, other than potentially Paladin, all of these are pretty good. It didn't shuffle up my tier list of my casters too terribly much, other than maybe dropping Bard down a tier. But it was enough to keep it fun and interesting for a lot of people going for the next year.
I will say, I felt like because Warriors had a mathematical advantage exclusively, that I thought they were better than every single melee class. That there was no point in if you had the choice of like choosing your composition or whatever. Maybe I'm on a big field and I choose to put my enchantments on particular people. I never thought there's a reason that you shouldn't always enchant a warrior if you could, over every other class, even over scout, because scout's like, who cares? Druids get a tune anyway. You're just a bad fighter or bad warrior. You just put all your enchantments on warrior. But now that it's not the case, you get more dynamic enchantment options and possibilities now that Paladin and Anti-Paladin are both available. And I think you're going to be seeing much more dynamic enchantment stacks on people that aren't just like Pro Mag Wounds Kill or Pro Mag Flame Blade on a warrior. Like there's some stuff like, I really want to play Anti-Paladin with Void Touched and Imbue Shield, or Void Touched and Ancestral Armor or something like that. And the possibilities become a little bit more grandiose.
For sure.
So I feel like it really broke up the meta for melee fighting, at least.
It made it at least competitive to where Warrior isn't the clear best in every situation, which it has been for 10 years. So I want to close with, if you are making a prediction between this year's GOTC to next year's GOTC, do you have a hot take that you think they'll have to be addressing, either nerfing or buffing for the next GOTC?
I'm gonna be honest. I don't think they're gonna make any class changes because they're like, V9's coming out, so they're gonna shirk it off. And if V8 or V9 fails, then they'll make changes to it. But I think a hot take, or people are gonna get really mad that Druid's still really good. I think people are gonna get mad about the amount of curse being on the field. I can't really think of anything else other than Bard kind of not being fun to play. And I don't know if those players are allowed enough to be like, dude, this class really sucks. Please, will you change it?
It's not a hugely populated class either, right? Like there's not a million people playing Bard.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who play Bard like okay, and then there's some people who play Bard at a really high level, but I don't know. It's hard to say, honestly.
My hot take is I think they will look back on Monk and realize that this was not enough at all. And if V9 doesn't happen like as quickly as what we're thinking, I think next year we will probably get a full rework of Monk.
So I got a hot take because of that.
Okay, go for it.
So I think the hot take is going to be they're going to change the way the rules reps organization is going to happen. Like they changed rules rep organization now. It's freaking the guy from Nine Blades. It's no longer it's not Wunjo, it's another person who's the rules rep organizer for V8.
I thought Craig was rules rep.
They replaced him this year. I think the hot take is that they're going to change the way voting happens and idea submission happens in the aftercare for V8. There's a lot of things that were on the docket that didn't get taken because people came in who weren't a part of the conversation for the entire thing. They came in afterwards, voted on like, oh, we don't like this, but they're never part of the conversation to begin with. So I think they're going to change the way submissions and stuff like that happen. Hopefully for the better, because I think everyone should want to make the best possible version of Amtgard that they can.
Cool. So hot takes, we've got a major change to how the roles are submitted for the next time. And we've got mine, which is we will get a complete Monk rework going in, because Monk I still think will be terrible.
Yeah, like there was a rules change for Monk that denied, which was a phase strike. And basically it was a strike that would just ignore protective magic.
I like that.
And that would have been a thing,
cool.
like key strike or whatever you want to call it. But it just ignored protective magic and they would die, which is cool because that countered like Phoenix Tears, Troll's Blood, Golem, Undead Minion, all that stuff. And they didn't get it because they wouldn't have gone to. Obviously, they want to go in a different direction with it, but
I would love Monk to have a side note. I would love Monk to have like a once per refresh, or maybe even once per refresh with some charges, where like they get to precision strike and ignore armor. And so like that one hit ignores all armor.
I would love that.
I think that would be, it wouldn't be too terribly bad, especially if it's just once per refresh or whatever. Mm-hmm. But like you can just one hit that warrior once per game.
Yeah, I would love if some of those light armor, no armor melee classes had on hit or strike abilities. Like I would love if maybe a monk has an ability that ignores armor because they cannot fight people with armor. I don't care how good of a polearm guy you are. If you have a breaking, crushing polearm, even if I'm a scout, I still can just kill you because you don't have armor. Yeah. I would like if maybe they had an ability that ignored armor. I would like if they had an ability that maybe made players insubstantial, like you knock their key out of their body, like what's her name in freaking Doctor Strange.
I'm not sure.
The Sorcerer Supreme, they can knock the key out of someone's body so their spirit comes out of their body. I think it'd be cool if monks had an ability that was on hit, ignores armor, ignores magical protections. It just makes you insubstantial for 30 seconds. I think it'd be cool. Because that's what they do. Like a monk wouldn't want to kill somebody; they just want to incapacitate them. Or like maybe if an assassin had an ability that stopped death triggers, so when they assassinate somebody, their Troll's Blood, Phoenix Tears, whatever doesn't activate. Maybe even Gift of Air doesn't activate, so the player actually dies. That would be a good way of making those classes more valuable. I would like to see maybe Archer get some type of buff. There's people in our game who are like top tier battle gamers who think Archer's really good. I think Archer is not. I think we both agree that there's every other bow class is better than Archer. But
there's no reason to be playing Archer. Like literally, go play Druid, go play Assassin, and you will be more effective on the field than if you're just playing
maybe
Archer.
If they had an arrow that actually ignored armor.
Or if you don't tie all of the power to the class to the arrows themselves, because I think the biggest, Hogman talks about this, the biggest issue is if I have an arrow loaded, I can't on the fly flip that off to another arrow if I'm getting chased or whatever.
Yeah.
And I get why they did it because they don't want as much shouting and all the different stuff, but like Archers is not it right now.
Yeah, I don't even know what they could possibly do. Like maybe they can make them more utility where it's like they have an arrow for every situation right now, but that's only in utility terms. That's not in kill potential. So why don't they have an arrow? Why don't they have like a Sphere of Annihilation arrow that ignores armor? Why don't they have an arrow? They have phase arrow, but why don't they have one that also deals with armor? I don't understand it.
Here's what you do. You take the two of the worst classes in the game, Scout and Archer, and you merge them together because they fill almost the same headcanon role, the Ranger role, right?
Yeah.
Armored, a little bit of armor. Heck, Archer already has a little bit of armor. So you take all of that, the things that make archers cool, and you give a couple of those arrows to the Scout, and you merge that lore a little bit, and you have maybe a decent class. Take two bad classes, merge them together, come out with a good class.
Yeah, they have to have two different play styles, basically, because you'd want to play a melee ranger or a bow ranger, essentially. I wouldn't care if those were two archetypes of scout. Scout is like, you can play an archer scout, or you can play a...
Animal companion scout.
Far strider scout, or what do you want to call it? Battle scout. I don't care.
I think that'd be cool.
Because scout and also monk kind of do the same thing of being a backline support if they need to. Or maybe give them kill triggers so they can kill trigger stuff at range, which would be pretty cool.
That would be cool.
That's so cool.
Kill trigger. That would be cool, actually.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
I don't know. I don't even know what you could do. Like if you had an ability that was charge, and every time you kill someone, you can charge an arrow. So it's like, but you have like your black arrow, Sphere of Annihilation arrow that's charge. You kill someone with it, charge my black arrow again, and kill them.
That'd be cool. I'm good with that.
Yeah, it's kind of like a barbarian idea that got shirked, was that you give them 4 activated abilities, and every time they kill someone, they can recharge 1 ability. And then you just choose in your head which ability you want to use when you kill somebody. They could do the same thing with Archer. Who knows?
Yeah.
There's lots of ideas that I don't feel like get explored, but it's whatever.
I like it. Well, Sir Raven, thank you so much for coming on tonight. We got an hour and 20 minutes.
24 minutes. A good one.
Going through this. So everyone, I hope this was helpful. This is kind of just our breakdown. I'm going to be sharing this to park pages and kingdom pages. If you like this video, if you found that it was useful, if you would do the same, that'd be awesome. Share this into your local kingdom, your Discord groups where all your people meet. Just kind of a breakdown of what changes are out out there because these rules do go into play this weekend. So it is useful for everyone to know what's going on. So I appreciate you all making it to an hour and 25 minutes into the video. I'm St. Godric. That's Sir Raven. We'll see you next time.
See you guys.